Hello everyone, welcome to J&D Gardens. If you're a new viewer, hi there. Please help us support the channel by hitting that subscribe button. And if you're already a viewer, welcome back. Well, we're here in Garden East on a beautiful Sunday morning, which is looking to be like a perfect end to another great gardener's weekend. No rain and plenty of sun to help us get a lot of things done. It has been a busy weekend. And you know what? It's a special Sunday today because it's Father's Day. So I would like to give a shout out to Dan and all the other fathers out there. Well, I've been plugging away the last few days setting up our Canna Garden. Now, if you saw the video of the redesign of Garden East, you'll remember that we added a few new planter beds to make room for more than a dozen new cannas that we got this year. And you know, even after all that work that Dan put in, we still didn't have enough room, and we had to put some cannas in pots, which I'll show you a little bit later. Now, before we start planting the cannas, we like to strategize on the placement of them. We like to take into account how much sun each area of the garden gets, the sizing of the canna, which is very important. You know, we don't want to put the smaller cannas to be in the shadows of the larger ones. And obviously things like color and series. We don't want to have all of our yellow ones in one area and all of our red ones in another area. So we try to break them up as best as we can. So Dan, being the designer that he is, made this map of Garden East on the computer and left a bunch of empty lines for me to fill in where everything is going to go, as you can see. So the way that we decided to lay Garden East out this year is that we're going to put our mid to large size plants, say 4 to 6 feet tall, in the back of the garden. And in the front row, right by the entrance near the fence, we're going to put some of our dwarves, like our Canna series, which grow to about 2 to 3 feet tall. By putting the smaller ones there, they won't block out the rest of the garden as you enter, making it more inviting. Now, the planter beds in the middle, we save for our favorite cannas, and some of the biggest ones, like our Tropicana series, or Pretoria, or even our Omega. But Omega gets so tall that we actually kept it in the end of the garden because we don't want it to cast any shadows on the rest of them. Now, as you can see, I've gotten most of Garden East planted. A few more that I still have to do. But the thing about cannas this early on is that they all look alike. I mean, look at this. With the exception of our Black Knight and our Tropicana Gold, they all look very similar, at least for now. But in another month or so, this area will have a multitude of colors and sizes. So it's extremely important that as soon as you plant them, and I mean as soon as you plant them, you tag them. And I don't mean one of those little white tags that you hand write. If you're going to be growing a big variety, you need something that's not going to get lost or blown away. We like to use these zinc plant tags. Has a nice long spike and the plate is very large to write on. And you use a special marker so that your writing won't smudge or wash away in the rain or fade in the sun. And when you want to reuse it again next year, you just remove it. You remove the writing with some acetone. And it's good as new. So we'll leave some links to these tags below. So like I said, we've gotten a bunch of new cannas in the garden this year. And these two in particular are part of the Toucan series. So far we have a yellow one and a coral one. Now I don't want to put them right next to each other, so I'm going to spread them out on this bed. Let me grab the coral one and show you how we plant it. Okay, so generally the first thing I do is find out what size hole I'm going to have to dig. So what I do is I take the pot that it's in, and I already pre-dug this, but what I would normally do is just kind of move it around on the soil so it makes an indentation. And then what I do is with the indentation, I just dig, and I wind up putting the soil all around, and I'll show you why in a second. And what I like to use is Miracle Grow Shake and Feed, all-purpose. These pellets really do a great job for our cannas. I put maybe a sprinkle or two in there, depending on the size canna. If it's a smaller canna, I put less. If it's a bigger canna like the Omega, I put a bunch in. Okay, so I'm going to take this out. And what I did was, I wound up loosening up the roots. They were all bunched up. I always wind up, but they're a little dry, so what I did was I took my fingers, just kind of moved it around, and as you can see, they're all nice and free right now. Position the plant how you want it to look. Do you want the flowers in front? Do you want them on the side? I'm going to put it here so that both shoots are showing as if you're walking toward it. Okay? And then why I put the soil on the side when I dig it out is that I get to put it back in to support it from all different angles. Makes it easier. Okay? And with cannas, because they can get tall, even like a 4 to 5 foot one or even a 2 to 3, just make sure you put enough soil on the bottom and you press down on it, because that's what supports it as it grows. Make sure it's straight. Oh, this was leaning a little bit. Push it off to the side a little bit. Perfect. Okay, that takes care of the coral one. Let's go down to the yellow one. Do the same thing. Okay, again, pre-dug hole. Put my shake and feed in there. It's a good sized plant, so I'm probably going to wind up just putting all of it in. A nice yellow one. See, it was all bunched up, so kind of take your fingers and just loosen up the roots. Position it as to how you want it to look. I think I'm going to put it this way. Push down if it seems like the top of it is going to go above your soil line. Okay. Make sure it's straight. Okay, that looks good. Just press down on it, make sure it's supported as best possible. Put a little bit more soil on the bottom if you need. All right, that looks good to me. Now we still have a space in our center planter bed for another new one to us this year, which I'm really excited that we actually found this in one of our local nurseries. And it's the gorgeous Robert Kemp. Look at these beautiful red blooms with these nice thin petals. Absolutely gorgeous. Now, I've been getting a lot of mixed reviews on how big Robert Kemp actually gets. They vary between 5 and 8 feet tall. So we'll see how it does this year. And if it turns out that it's going to be a giant, like our Omega back there, we're going to have to move it back towards the end so it doesn't block the sun for everyone else. Now, the planter beds in the center here are actually 10 inches deep, as opposed to the 6-inch ones around the perimeter. And the reason we did that was because the cannas that we picked for the middle are going to get so big that we wanted to give them plenty of room to develop strong rhizomes to help support the heavy weight of the plant. So we're gonna plant Robert Kemp here. And I still can't believe we got this one. I am absolutely shocked. So what I did was, again, I pre-dug the hole, and this hole was much deeper because of the bed being 10 inches as opposed to 6. So what we did was I took the pot that it was in, moved it around, got the indentation in the dirt, dug where the indentation was, and moved all the dirt all around the hole. Not just one side, but all around. I'm going to use, because this is going to be a big plant, I'm going to use a full scoop of the Miracle Grow Shake and Feed. And I'm going to put it all around the sides of the hole and in the bottom. So I'm going to take Robert Kemp out. And again, I loosened up the roots because they were a little, they were kind of stuck together. And now it's nice and free. They're long. You can actually cut these if you want, but I decided just to keep them. And I'm going to position Robert Kemp as I want him to look in the garden as you're walking toward it. And I think I like that. So then just push all the dirt that you put on the sides. Make sure it's straight. You can always straighten it a little bit later if need be. Push it in. Now for tall plants, you're going to definitely want to make sure that this is pushed down as much as possible. You want as much support as you can get. And again, make sure it's straight, which this looks pretty straight. Just take all the dirt you can, push it on the sides. And I think that's good. So excited to have Robert Kemp here. Great addition. Now, as I mentioned before, we have more cannas than we have planter bed space. So we had to put some in pots. Now, Dan and I were back and forth on which ones we would put here. So we finally decided on the Canova series. If you're looking to get into cannas, you can't go wrong with the Canova series. They have a very large variety of colors, both in blooms and leaves. And let me tell you, they're great producers, both in seeds and in rhizomes. Definitely a must-have for your collection. Now, canna lilies love to be potted, but just make sure that you give them a good-sized pot so that they can develop big, strong rhizomes, so you can dig them up in the fall and have them for the following year. Now, the Canova series that we showed you, they like to grow nice and straight and tall. So the smaller pot that we had them in were fine. But when it comes to ones like South Pacific, they're a little shorter, but they tend to spread out more. Kind of looks like an octopus with all their tentacles. Really beautiful. So we went with a larger barrel pot, and this one's for South Pacific orange, and we have an ivory and a scarlet red on the other side, both in barrel pots. They're all just as gorgeous. So I hope you guys enjoyed this planting stage or pre-walkthrough video of Garden East. Dan will be back in a couple of months to give you a full walkthrough once everything is fully grown. It's really going to be impressive this year. We'll leave a link to last year's walkthrough video at the end of this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something, and I hope this piques your interest into getting into cannas. They really, really are a gorgeous plant and don't need a lot of maintenance, and obviously very, very beautiful. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and ring that bell. So from here in Garden East, till next time, remember, yes we Canna.